What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another brand new Major Ben gaming video. And I do hope you guys are having a fantastic day as always. Now, a little bit of a break from the old Steam Deck testing. As much as I love doing those videos, I do like to do these kind of videos on my channel as well, where we talk about various different topics and different things and scenarios that are coming up at the moment. And at the moment, it's about how weak the next gen consoles, or current gen consoles, I should be saying now, seem to be. Now, there is a very big consensus, and there was a lot of emphasis at the launch of these two consoles in 2020 and beforehand about 60 FPS gaming, even 120 FPS at 4K, or even 60 FPS at 4K. And they were all pushing the fact that the narrative going forward for consoles would be 60 FPS gaming, no more 30 FPS, you know, if possible. And we are now starting to see, coming into Unreal Engine 5 games that are releasing, they are crippling the consoles to a point where these games are actually only running at 1080p for their 60 FPS versions, or 1440p for their, 30 FPS versions, their quality mode and performance mode. So that to me is very disappointing. Now, considering even the previous generation, we had resolutions over, 1080p at 30 FPS to be fair, but the fact that we're getting just 1080p for our 60 FPS modes now and 1440p for our 30 FPS modes feels very disheartening this early on in a console generation when, I don't know, there's so many tools available to this time, to them at this time, like FSR and things like that. It just seems to still be crippling them. And this isn't just for the consoles, this is for the PC where I play my RTX 4090 on games recently like Immortals of Avium even struggle to run that game with high frame rates at 4K 120 FPS or whatever, with all the features that Unreal Engine 5 allows for, which like Nanite and Lumen and stuff like that struggles. But just to take a look at a couple of articles here today, as you can see, Immortals of Avium is running poorly even on the best PC, as I just said. And yeah, you can see this is using, sorry for the noise in the background, this is using all the next gen features, this game. This is using Lumen and Nanite as well. And if you even look at the specs, the actual base specs ask for an RTX 2080 Super graphics card. Bear in mind, that is probably still more powerful than the PS5 and Series X's GPU. That maybe doesn't allow for the fact that they've optimized specifically for these consoles, but the consoles are around about this power. We've figured it out. We've heard from Digital Foundry that that's about where we're looking at in terms of the console performance. Apologies if I was slightly off camera there at the first. But as you can see, yeah, that's what it's doing. Even the 4090 is not running this game at 120 FPS. I have a 4090. Even with frame gen, I'm not getting 120 FPS locked at 4K. And I know, that sounds very petty, but this is a £1,500 graphics card and you still can't get 4K 120 FPS. So anyway, the point is, this game on console runs at 1080p 60 FPS or 1440p at 30 FPS. Sorry, I don't know why I struggled so much. Let's try and just find that a second. The Immortals of Avium console performance is what I want to see here. So yeah, 1080p 60 FPS. Is someone talking about the 1440p? I don't think anyone seems to. Anyway, I don't really care about the 1440p version, because at the end of the day, this game is going to be stupid to play at 30 FPS. It's literally a shooting game. You just wouldn't want to play this game at 30 FPS at all. But the point is, it's very, very low resolution. Now, going on to Remnant 2, which also launched recently, this isn't even using all the Unreal Engine 5 features, but quality mode, obviously prioritizing resolution, will hit 30 FPS, and then the balance locked will actually do 60 FPS. Now, this was also another 1080p version. I don't know why none of these articles are actually telling us what the console frame rates are. So again, Remnant 2, sorry, this is a bit of like a showing and telling video in a way. Remnant 2 console performance. Let's just confirm this. I really thought this chart was going to have it. I didn't really see. But they're just talking about, so all three modes upscale to 1440p apparently. But I think the native resolution is actually below. You can see, look. All three modes upscale to 1440p with rather low native resolutions. Quality is around 1296p, so not even 1440p, balanced is 792p on average, and performance is a mere 720p. Now, yeah, okay, they're upscaling it to 1440p, but to me, for a next-gen box, that seems absolutely insane. And then the Xbox Series S is only getting 900p at 30 FPS. That just baffles me. And then again, a game that's coming up very shortly is Lords of the Fallen, which is running at 1440p 30 FPS or 1080p 60 FPS. And the developers are constantly saying about how Unreal Engine 5 is a huge leap in terms of what is required from the consoles. And I just don't think that when we listen to all these big podcasts talking about the next-gen systems, or we just talk about the next-gen systems, I don't think many people factored in the fact that when these consoles get more powerful, the developers go, oh, we got all this stuff, look what we can now do with our games. We can hit the visions we want to hit because the consoles are now capable of having this much, the CPUs were obviously the weak things in the PS4 era. We've now got these amazing or better CPUs in the Series X and PS5 and Series S as well, for that matter. They can now utilize all of that CPU, and again, they're going to try and max it out. If you look at a lot of the PC charts of what they're asking for, like we did with the frickin' RTX 2080 Super for Immortals of Avium as a minimum spec. If we ever look at Immortals of Avium PC requirements is what I want. If we just take a look at this for a second, let's scroll down. No, I want to keep my ad blocker. This is what they're asking for the minimum system requirements. So as I said, the RTX 2080 Super, they want an i7 9700. This is basically, or an AMD Ryzen 7 series 3700X. That's very similar to what you actually have on the console. Now, the console, bear in mind, is optimized for, but this is just to hit 1080p 60, which is what the console is hitting. So I don't know about the settings in terms of low to medium, but the console you would have thought should do a bit better than that because they're actually optimizing for that specific hardware. But again, if we go up to the recommended 3080 Ti, a 12 gig GPU, 16 gig GPU for the AMD side of things, so 6800 XT, and an i7 12700 or Ryzen 7 5700, which is quite a bit better than what is on the consoles. And even this, you're only going to get 1440p 60 FPS, medium to high settings. And as you can see by the charts here, you literally need a 4090 to get what they're saying is 4K 100 FPS, 20 FPS. And I can tell you, you don't hit that with a 4090. I have one in my PC that's right here. You don't get that. If it may be with this CPU, I don't have that CPU, but yeah, you just don't get that. So I just think overall, people haven't discussed enough about the games getting higher in terms of graphical fidelity, and the consoles are going to be impacted by that. I think consoles will always be a thing that's 30 FPS first. The developers want the games to look the best they can, which means they need to run at 30 FPS at 4K or 1440p or whatever they can get them to run at. They're not going to prioritize frame rates ever for consoles. It's always going to be resolution first because their games look better. And they're going to want to push things. Now they've got this CPU bandwidth. Things are going to get, essentially worse. The more technology we have, the more developers want to push things. The consoles are going to struggle more and more. Like the PCs will struggle more and more as well. It's just that consoles have set hardware and they're always going to try and get resolution first and then try and work back to a 60 FPS mode if they can do that. And in a lot of cases, we've seen games not be able to achieve that. I know at first, like Plague's Tale Requiem, for example, amazing looking game, that now has a 60 FPS mode, but at the cost of reducing certain frame rates to certain assets in the game, which to me kind of ruined the game. It didn't look very good. It's very jarring when you saw the rats running at half resolution. It just didn't really make sense, especially in some of the bigger scenes with the rats. But at least they got a 60 FPS mode working. But we're seeing with these games now that 1080p 60 seems to be the target of what is expected from Unreal Engine 5 games, and a lot of these games aren't necessarily even using every feature that Unreal Engine 5 has to offer. So I very much am on the side of, I think a next-gen or mid-gen refresh, is a very, very good idea. Excuse me. I know a lot of people will hate me for that, but look at what we're getting. We're not getting the performance. And I know we can talk about, developers should utilize all the features that are there for them. The truth is they're not. I think they're getting lazy, and it sucks, and we can obviously complain, and they may not utilize the features of a PS5 Pro, but at least the power's a little bit more there for them to still utilize, even if they don't use all the features. The raw power will push those things to be better. But you know, I don't know what to say, to be honest. I'm playing on PC anyway, so it doesn't bother me. I've got a 4090, so I'm in a position where I can just crank everything up and still, even in some cases, not get 120 FPS at 4K with frame generation on. But at the same time, I'm happy with 60 on PC anyway. It's just nice to have something above usually, but with some games you just can't expect that. But I will upgrade to the 5090 when that comes out, and then I'll get 60 or 120 FPS again probably. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. I just think it's disappointing. These consoles were hyped up so much, and I think they're being absolutely crippled by these next-gen games already. And we're still kind of coming out of the cross-gen period as well with the previous consoles. There's still some games coming out on PS4 and PS5. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what games look like by the end of this generation with Unreal Engine 5 being fully utilized by most developers. That's what's going to be interesting. But anyway, for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye-bye for now.